10 days. No talking, no eye contact, no phone, no writing. Just waking up at 5 a.m. and meditating for 10 hours a day. Or in my case, scrubbing toilets for 10 days for free. If you guys watched this video 2 years ago, then you will have heard about my experience meditating for 10 days on something called Vipassana. I promise it's not a cult. It's actually not attached to any religion. It's a type of meditation technique that you can use to honestly unpack a lot of trauma, to learn the truth of who you are, to learn the truth of the nature of life and the world. Sounds very deep and dramatic, but you kind of have to experience it to know. I did the Vipassana retreat at the Hereford Centre in the UK and it changed my life. Not in this dramatic, oh, I'm a new person kind of way, but it just gave me a tool to observe the truth of my nature and of all people's nature, and I wish that everyone could have this experience. And the craziest thing is, Vipassana is free. You don't have to pay for accommodation or the teaching or the food. How can such a transformative experience be for free? Because it is entirely run by volunteers. Ex-students come back to serve in the kitchens, to do the laundry, to scrub the toilets. And there's this wonderful attitude of reciprocity. If you have done a 10-day retreat, then you were only able to do that because of all the people who served on your course. And so if you do the course and you benefit, then you can hopefully give back and serve on another one so that other people can have this experience too. So last week, I finally kept my promise and I served for 10 days in the Hereford Centre in the UK. In today's video, I'm gonna give you the honest tea about my experience, the good, the bad, and the ugly, how it deepened my practice of Vipassana, why I think everyone should serve. Before I went to serve, I kind of had no idea what it entailed, and I remember going on YouTube hoping to find someone else's experience to help me out, and there wasn't really anything, and so I hope that this video can empower any of you who are interested in serving on a Vipassana. And spoiler alert, I served alongside a famous Netflix actress who's been in The Crown and someone who's a really famous climate activist. So you never know who you're gonna scrub dishes with. Not to say that like people being famous makes them in any way different or better than other people. You're with the most generous and kind and loving, beautiful people anyway. That's just the fun tea. Before we get into it, whenever I tell people about my experience at Vipassana, they always ask how they can get involved in meditation, how they can learn this practice. And obviously I'd always recommend doing a 10-day meditation retreat yourself. But if that feels too intense, if you've never meditated before, then I always recommend learning to meditate with an amazing app like Headspace. I first learned how to observe my breath with Headspace when I was 16, and I did meditations to help me with exam stress and anxiety. I learned how to do body scans to help me sleep. I learned how to focus on my breath rather than being lost in my thoughts. And it's such a dream because today's video is kindly sponsored by Headspace, which means that all of you watching this can get 60 days of meditation completely free, which is amazing. If you want to learn how to meditate but you don't know where to start, I highly recommend downloading it. You can build a habit. 60 days is a long time, and they've actually done studies to prove that just using Headspace for 10 days already reduces anxiety and increases happiness. So if you want to learn how to meditate, you can use the link in my description. Also, another reason I love Headspace, in partnering with me, they let me choose a charity that they're going to donate money to, and so this video collaboration lets me donate money to United World Schools, which is one of my favourite education charities and helps build schools for children in under-resourced areas, particularly in Cambodia. So yeah, we love Headspace. You can use the link in my description or scan this QR code to try it for 60 days for free.
Just taking a moment to notice the environment, in particular any sounds.
Okay, so I actually didn't arrive on day 0. So it's obviously the 10 days. Day 0 is where all the students arrive, they get their accommodation, they have one meal together, and then the silence comes down, and the next day they start meditating. So normally servers would come on day 0, but I had a work emergency and the centre were really lovely and let me come on day 1. And in general, actually, you don't have to serve for a full 10 days. You can serve for 2 days or 3 days, you can do part-time service. And prior to serving, I would have thought like, oh, going for 2 days isn't really that helpful. But let me tell you, even 2 days of service is game changing. We were actually really short on servers in my course, and so at times it was a lot of work and kind of stressful. And it felt like a gift from the heavens when a new server would show up for 2 days and kind of lighten our load, bring fresh energy to the team. So if you're considering going for even a few days, I highly recommend it. So yeah, I arrived on day 1. I came all the way from Brighton, so it took me like 6-7 hours to get to Hereford. I was picked up from the bus station by the centre manager, which was really lovely. So we got in the car together, we drove down to the centre, and as we were driving, the centre manager was like, oh look, there's one of our long-term servers, like you'll be serving alongside her. And I remember looking at her, this like regal black older woman. She just looked so radiant and loving and calm, and I was like, wow, I want to be like her. And spoiler alert, I ended up spending like the most time with her. I was shown to my living quarters, and I had my own room in a block of other servers, and it was so clean and lovely. Similar to when I was a student, I had to bring my own bedding, so I kind of set up my room, and then I was assigned my role. I was assigned to be in the kitchen. I don't know about you, but when I think about working in the kitchen at a meditation centre, I envision mindfully chopping vegetables, maybe kneading some dough in blissful silence. If you have ever worked in an industrial kitchen, you will know it is not a picture of calm. The second I entered the large kitchen and there were like, you know, all the servers bustling about trying to make the meal for the evening, it kind of dawned on me that this might not be the most relaxing experience of my life. And to make matters more stressful, as I came in, I'm smiley, I'm introducing myself to people. This woman, she walks towards me, she looks me in the eye and she goes, "You're gonna be the head chef." And I'm thinking, girl, what does that mean? You've looked me up and down, you don't know me. You don't know my cooking ability. What does it mean to be a head chef? And it turns out that the head chef would be responsible for cooking for 250 people 3 times a day and kind of overseeing the work of the 20 other people in the kitchen. So I'm honoured that she thought from my vibes that I could be head chef, but there's many things I feel competent in, and cooking is not really one of them. Like, I can cook, but I wouldn't say I'm a chef, and certainly not a head chef. So when she gave me that role, a panic went through me. But you're in the attitude of service, right? So mentally, I took up the challenge. I'm like, great, Jade, we don't love cooking, but sure, we can be head chef, we'll be supported, we can learn this. So I put the hairnet on, put the apron on, met the rest of the team, helped clean up for the rest of the stuff that day. And then we all went and meditated in the hall for evening meditation. As a server, you meditate for an hour in the morning with all the students, you meditate in the middle of the day for another hour, and you meditate for another hour in the evening. So you do 3 hours of a proper focused sit of meditation. And you also have something called servers meditation, which is when all the students have gone to sleep at about 9 p.m. all the servers gather in the meditation hall with the teachers, and we do a metta meditation. Not only are you sending loving kindness to all the students and hoping that they have the best experience possible at Vipassana, but the main goal of the metta meditation is to release any resentment that you might have built towards any of your fellow servers in the day. Because you can imagine, if you're working in an industrial kitchen and you have to cook for 250 people and there's timings you have to meet, even though people are so well-intentioned and mindful, naturally you're human. Like, difficulties arise, stress arises. And so at the server's meditation, you pardon anyone who might have hurt you that day, and you also seek pardon for any hurt that you may have caused, even if you aren't aware of that hurt. And that to me is very simple but very revolutionary, and I just envisioned how much better the world would be if we all, every single day, had to sit with people who might annoy us and envision ourselves sending love to them. That first day, we all went to bed at about 9:30, 10 p.m, and I woke up at 5 a.m. to get started in the kitchen. All the servers had the option of waking up even earlier at 4 a.m. if you wanted to join the students in their early morning meditations. But let me tell you, you quickly get so tired as a server that very few people were doing the 4 a.m. meditation. So I went to the kitchen, the hairnet is on, and I'm learning from the current head chef, because she would be leaving in 2 days and then it would be up to me to kind of take over for the rest of the time. And she was amazing. She first introduced herself. I was like, oh, what's your name? And she's like, oh, Chang. And I couldn't help myself. I was like, do you spell your name T-R-A-N-G? And she's like, yes, you do. And I'm like, are you from Vietnam by any chance? And she's like, yes, I am. And I'm like, are you by any chance from the north? And she's like, yes, I am. Because one of my best friends at university was called Chang, spelt in the same way. and the pronunciation is like a North Vietnam thing. And so I just instantly felt this click with her. 3 of my best friends in the world are from Vietnam. I don't know, she was just amazing and so funny and warm, and we were a similar age. Also, some of you might be surprised to hear that I was talking to her, because obviously Vipassana is a silent meditation retreat, but the way that the silence works is all the students have noble silence, and it's your job to help enforce that. So whenever you're in student areas, you're quiet, you're silent, but naturally to get your job done as a server, you need to talk. So you engage in something called noble speech. And let me tell you guys, noble speech is so much harder than noble silence. The goal of noble speech is that you don't lie, you don't gossip, you don't speak badly about people or anything in your life, and you try to be conscious to only speak when you have to build connection and camaraderie with people that then enhances the work. And you start to realize how often you want to say things just to fill the silence. But the things you want to say don't really aid in connection, they don't really need to be said. You just feel this like impulse. And so it's a wonderful practice to learn to be in companionable silence with people. Also, to go over the rules, so all the students are segregated by gender. So there's the female side, the male side. Obviously we can get into like the controversy of such strict gendering, but for servers, it's kind of, you have mixed spaces. So for example, the kitchen, you're cooking with men and women. But then we also have a female only server area and a male only server area. I would only clean the female side, men would only clean the male side. Also, you have strict rules not to touch anyone, which I found so hard. Like at the end of a long day, don't you just want to high five someone? Don't you just want to hug them and be like, we did an amazing job today? Like, it was so difficult to build these relationships with people and to not be able to engage in any form of touch. And then with your phone, you're encouraged not to use it, but you are allowed to at certain times of day in certain designated areas if you really need to. So say there's like a family emergency, you're a long-term server and you've been there for months and you want to keep up to date with the news, you are allowed to do that. But I personally chose to switch my phone off for the entire 10 days so that I could embrace being present and not feel overwhelmed by the outside world. Okay, so that morning we toasted a million pieces of bread. We set up breakfast, all the fruits. We made these cauldrons of porridge. And as head chefs, already at 6 a.m, we were starting to cook lunch. I learned how to use something called a brat pan. So brat, Charlie XCX would be proud. A brat pan is like a giant pan that cooks for 500 people. She's scary. You're like, you literally feel like a witch stirring this giant thing that can cook for so many people. And honestly, I was feeling overwhelmed. I was feeling overwhelmed by like the recipe list and all the stuff that needed to get chopped and just like the hectic environment of the kitchen. But then, guys, at about 7 a.m, when I was eating my breakfast, my whole life changed, because the management came in and they were like, Jade, there's been an error in the system. You were never meant to be in kitchen. You're in household, which meant my head chef duties would be saved for another future day and I would no longer be in the kitchen. So it was kind of sad because I felt that I'd built a lot of relationships in the kitchen already, like with Chang and with other servers. But attitude of service, you do what you're told, right? So I took off the hair cap and then put on a brand new apron, went to the household office instead of the kitchen. And from then on, I spent 10 days scrubbing toilets.
Remember allowing thoughts to come and go, noticing when the mind wanders.
That first morning I had kind of induction, I got my caddy full of my cleaning supplies. I met the team, and that long-term server that I mentioned at the start, right, this radiant woman, she was the person that I spent most of the time working with and cleaning with. She'd been there cleaning toilets and showers for 6 weeks. And so let me tell you, she gave me the tutorial of my life. Call me Marie Kondo or whatever the cleaning people are called, because I am now the best cleaner ever. If you need a toilet cleaned to perfection, sparkling, all the right materials, cloths, I'm your gal. Guys, I have so much respect for cleaners or just people who do physical labor work, because let me tell you, it was so exhausting. That first morning where you're kind of learning everything felt quite relentless. I guess maybe because I wasn't used to getting up that early as well in my daily life. Mornings are where you do the bulk of your work as a member of the household team. So we went in and cleaned 10 blocks, all the toilets and all the showers and all the common areas of students. And I became so grateful for the meditation sittings in the morning, the afternoon and the evening to kind of decompress from the physicality of the work. And every night when my head hit that pillow at like 9:30 p.m, I was out like a light. And I think the main reason why the work was so difficult was because we were understaffed. It just meant that we had to do a lot more work than if we had more helping hands. But if the work was ever physically hard, let me tell you guys, the reward was greater. Coming for server's lunch after an exhausting morning of cleaning and having this most delicious, nourishing food and knowing all the people who cooked it, because I know them personally, right? Knowing that every vegetable I'm eating has been chopped by one of my friends, or this sauce has been, you know, made by my head chef friend Chang. Going to the toilets or the showers, seeing how sparkling clean it is, and knowing that that is the work of either my hands or my friend's hands. Sitting in the meditation hall for my hour meditation sits and looking at the students working so hard and having these transformative experiences, and knowing that I get to be a small part of making that experience happen for them. Because the biggest tenet of serving at Vipassana is learning to work with Metta. M-E-T-T-A, Metta. This is a Buddhist concept called loving kindness. How can you suffuse your work with love, compassion? Because if you can do that, then every toilet you scrub, every vegetable you chop, becomes infused with that good energy and becomes an object of meditation. You learn how to bring this abstract experience of meditating into your daily life, into your daily tasks. And even if resentment or difficulty or stress comes up, you learn how to manage that with this attitude of loving kindness. Gwenka, the main teacher, he actually says that if you ever feel too tired to work with Metta, then you must rest. If you ever feel resentful or angry, then you must go meditate and restore yourself to this good nature, good energy of love again. Because at Vipassana, the quality of the work matters more than the work itself. To do good work, taking care of yourself is paramount. And this is such a beautiful idea, and one that I really want to take into the rest of my life, that advocating for my needs is essential to me doing the best work. That no matter how pressing work may seem, if you are not in the right headspace to do that work, then you should wait. You should accept your state. And often in accepting it, you restore the right energy to do that work so much more quickly than battling it. So my second day in household was already so much easier because I knew what to expect. I had kind of landed in this team, I was starting to get to know them better, and my routine was as follows. I would wake up at about 6 a.m. I'd have a freezing cold shower to wake me up, rejuvenate for the day ahead, put on my cleaning clothes, get my caddy, and I would clean the entire server's block around 6:30 a.m. Do the toilets, the bins, the showers until about 7:15 a.m. Then I'd go for breakfast, socialise with other servers, or go to the woodland and the fields before the group sit meditation, the first one of the day at 8 a.m. Then we'd go to the household office for a meeting. This meeting had both men and women. We would discuss the tasks of the day, discuss how we're feeling. And then what I loved is we'd always do a 2-minute meditation together to kind of set up our energy for the day. And then we'd do the big task of doing all the students' blocks until about midday. Then we'd go for lunch, maybe help anything in the kitchen that needs doing, and then at 12:15 I would clean the servers' room. Then 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. servers got their proper break, so I would often go and nap because I was physically so tired. I'm acting like I'm like 80. I mean, I am a grandma at heart, but I was so tired, guys. Literally, I have so much respect for people who do physical labour every day. How do you do it? Or there was also a library of books that you could access as a server that were all about the history of Vipassana and Dharma. And I read this amazing book about Vipassana being used in prisons and how the largest 10-day course of Vipassana was actually done in a prison in India with over 1,000 inmates. And it's just been such a transformative experience. And it's a part of their rehabilitation and makes them want to be better citizens, to go back into society with love and kindness. 2:30 till 3:30, group sit again. Then go back to the office, have another 2-minute meditation, have a catch up with the gang, drink a little bit of tea, then go do the rest of the cleaning tasks for the day. 5 p.m. was servers' dinner. This would often be leftovers from the days before. 6 p.m, another meditation group sit, and then we had free time after that. You could go watch the discourse with the students if you wanted to rewatch Gwenka's teachings. Often I would just chill because I was tired. And then at 9 p.m, you finally have servers meditation, and then you go to sleep And those were the days. Very routined, which I kind of loved by the end, because you knew when you were getting your breaks, you knew what to expect from the work, and it meant that you could sink into the mindful element of it.
Remember allowing thoughts to come and go, noticing when the mind wanders.
The third day, I started to get a lot closer with this woman who I was serving alongside. She felt like a mentor. I just so deeply admired her equanimity, her patience, her kind strength. I learned about her life, why she decided not to have a partner and kids, her fears around aging and, not having kids to look after her. It was just so special to have kind of like this intergenerational friendship. And in general, the sense of camaraderie between servers was something that I will always take with me from these 10 days. People were so kind, so generous. I think anyone who is willing to spend 10 days of their life doing labour for free, giving up control, right? Doing whatever tasks they're given. It brings together a very certain type of people, and those people are just rooted in generosity. And obviously, everyone has different personalities. Sometimes those personalities clash. Sometimes there's difficulties. We all have our triggers, and I think it's an amazing environment to learn more about those triggers and kind of question them. But I felt especially grateful to have been in both the kitchen team and the household team, because it felt like I had double the friends or double the people to learn from. I made one close friend. Let's call them Moss for the sake of anonymity. And it's crazy because I'd say the first 5 days or so, you know a lot more about people's personalities than you actually do about their lives. The whole noble speech thing, you're not really digging into like loads of details about people's lives. So it was a slow burn of becoming comfortable with each other and then starting to unravel more about who we are outside of this centre. And Moss was non-binary, so we talked a lot about how difficult it was for them to be in such a gendered space and what the centre had done to accommodate, like giving them a room with an ensuite bathroom. And it turns out that casually, Moss was one of the original founders of Extinction Rebellion, which is one of the most important climate movements, vegan movements, organised loads of protests and actions across the last 10 years or whatever. And we just had such amazing conversations. Across the 10 days, I opened up a lot to Moss about relationship challenges that I've been going through. And they were so healing to speak to. But guys, there was one day in the 10 days where I really needed the camaraderie. Obviously, you are meditating for minimum 3 hours a day. And when you're on land, it has such healing vibrations, right? If you think of the hundreds of thousands of people who come to that center to meditate, to go deep with themselves, kind of like it becomes a very pure space. And I don't know how to describe it, but just that land, it brings stuff up in your subconscious. Like the dreams that I would have were the most vivid dreams of my life. I've never had more vivid dreams than when I'm at the Dharma Deepa Center. It felt like I was watching movies with how crisp and vivid they were. And my dreams would reveal fears and core beliefs that were affecting my life. But when you're doing all this meditation, when you're in this really healing land, stuff can come up. And around day 4, I started to notice that when I'd meditate, I would have this persistent, intense, gross sensation, as they call it, on my left thigh. And it felt like this intense pain. And it's a pain that when you meditate Vipassana, is not just pain from like sitting still. You know that this is a pain that is coming up because it's something called a sankhara, or a kind of like trauma reaction from your life, something trapped in your subconscious that is causing you a lot of pain and tension in your life. And so every time I came to sit, this sankhara would rise, and I would do the Vipassana technique. I would observe it neutrally, and layer by layer, I felt this thing kind of intensifying but also loosening. And the process of that obviously brings up a lot of emotion. And so on day 8, I woke up and I felt like water. I felt so fragile. Breakfast, when I would normally sit with everyone, I just couldn't make eye contact with people. I went and sat by the window on the opposite side of the room, and Moss came over to me and asked if I was okay, and I just burst into tears. And obviously Moss couldn't hug me, and so they just it was so cute. They hugged the leg of my chair to try and give me the good energy that I needed. And then this just made me bawl my eyes out. The course manager, I loved her. Her name was Joanna. She came and sat down next to me. She said to me, "Jade, you know how people call Gwenka, the main teacher, Gwenka-ji as a term of endearment because of how much they love him? This whole 8 days, I have wanted to call you Jade-ji, because of what a light you are and what positivity you bring to spaces. And she was like, yeah, I can tell that you're such a sensitive soul and that you give so much, but you also feel so deeply. She's like, that's a gift. It's such a gift to have your presence, your jade chi. I burst into tears because to feel so held and loved and seen by someone you've met very recently, right? Especially when you're in an environment where you're not in contact with your loved ones, like I wasn't going on my phone. To have that support from the servers, it just was so bonding and meant the world. And the rest of the day I still did my work, especially because we were so short on staff, so I was like, oh, I just want to help. But I took it slower and I let myself cry as I was cleaning the toilets if I had to. And that afternoon I went to see the teacher. She told me that sankharas can come up whenever and I just had to let the wave pass. And she said that this actually can be one of the difficulties of being a server. Obviously you have your duties and you're here to serve the students, but things can come up for you because of the space, the environment, the meditation. And she told me to just really take it easy and to be kind to myself. And guys, the next day, on day 9, I woke up with the most profound joy. Autumn was so crisp and colourful. I felt like a child who was experiencing autumn for the first time. Felt like something heavy in my soul had kind of shifted and had given me this new perspective. And I think that is what Vipassana does. That's what releasing these sankharas does. It's what acceptance of your feelings does. If you suppress one feeling, you suppress all of them, right? So if you just observe the sensations, then you open up space to feel the sensations of joy so deeply too. And day 10, when the silence finally broke and we got to speak to the students, I just felt such a profound gratitude for the experience. About 7 students came up to me privately and told me that they were only there doing Vipassana because they'd seen my YouTube video and they'd never heard of it prior to seeing my video. And so a lot of them were like, wow, Jade, like when I was doing this meditation and all of a sudden I saw like you walk in as a server and like meditate in the same room with me. They're like, wait, that girl from YouTube, she's here in the same room, which I think is just funny. But all of our hard work felt so worth it. To see the joy on these students' faces, to hear their experiences. And I felt like it was a profound honor to serve Dharma. Dharma, this idea of like, I don't even know how to describe it, like the goodwill, the law of nature, the true thing that's deeper within all of us that the normal world doesn't give space for, to kind of serve that. There was so much goodness in the 10-day experience. And I guess I just want to make this video to encourage you to go. If you've ever done a Vipassana and you kind of are eligible to serve, then I highly recommend making it a priority. The friends that you'll make, the community, you just feel part of something bigger. You feel this amazing sense of belonging. And I will definitely do it again. I will definitely do it again. I will definitely do another 10-day. I will serve again. I would love to hear if any of you guys have served on Vipassana yourselves, or what your experience of volunteering and service is. How does it make you feel to serve? Why would you inspire other people to give their time and energy and love to others in exchange for nothing, right? Like you're doing it for free. If you made it to this point in the video, please comment me like a person meditating emoji. I think that just feels very relevant. I would love to scroll through the comments and see all these people meditating. And just thank you for caring about these things. You know, anyone who is interested in things like meditation and service, you're my kind of people. And I feel very lucky to have a corner of the internet with people like you in it. So thank you for being here. In the spirit of Vipassana, in the spirit of Metta, may we all be happy. May we all be liberated. May we all be free from suffering. May all beings be happy. May all beings be liberated. May all beings be free from suffering. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you all. Bye! Also, if you want to go meditate, click the link in my description. Bye!